Thank you. Yeah, the feedback has been great. See if I can actually find some of the feedback to I'll actually read you some of the feedback we got from one of the campus police departments as they actually was testing it and were actually flying these drones remotely from their computer or phone. And yeah, they said it definitely got our attention. This has a lot of potential. Man, this is awesome. This is super cool, amazing. This is so cool. I don't know how to describe it. The simplicity of it is impressive. Super impressed with the technology and the interface and how simple it is to use. I was so impressed. Don't need to be sold. Mesmerized by the capability and application. Fantastic. I can see so many applications in our daily operations.
Before we get started, I have a quick favor. I've been self-funding the Finding Genius podcast for 5 years now. I've done over 3,000 episodes. And as you can see on YouTube, we're up over 1 million views on the channel, which is fantastic. The next thing I really want to push on is to get up to 10,000 subscribers, because once we do, we'll be able to put a donate button and we'll be able to solicit donations to help keep the podcast running and to also get the Finding Genius Foundation moving along. We have a big project studying anxiety, depression, and PTSD and working on a product to help people overcome these problems, because I've seen them explode recently after the last 2 years of the whole virus situation. So if you would, please subscribe to the podcast. That would help us tremendously. Give us a thumbs up and check in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. It's about $5. If you could buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate it. It would help keep the channel going, and I love coffee. Thank you.
Forget frequently asked questions,
common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast, now part of the Finding Genius Foundation. I have a returning guest, very interesting guy named Alex Bäcker. He's a PhD. He's a scientist, an inventor, a writer, a speaker, and an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about a drone-based technology called Drisit, D-R-I-S-I-T, and particularly Drisit Bodyguard. So, Alex, thanks for coming. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Richard, for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. Tell me, so people don't have to refer to the last interview, what is Drisit? And then we'll go into what are some of the new applications for Drisit you're working on.
Sure. So Drisit stands for drone visit. So literally it's a compression of both of those words. And Drisit's mission is to empower anyone to be anywhere and everywhere, essentially to allow people to have telepresence, so that just like we got used to not having to travel somewhere to have a meeting, thanks to Zoom and the like, to get used to the fact that we can now inspect and see places without having to actually go there, by flying a drone remotely and watching its footage in real time. So that's what Drisit is, and in all kinds of things, from infrastructure monitoring, construction monitoring, security, education, virtual field trips, as well as others.
Okay, and what is Drisit Bodyguard?
Yeah, so Drisit Bodyguard was inspired in a true story. My daughter goes to college at a very prominent campus back east, and when she visited a few months ago now, student had just been found dead by the tennis courts late one night, and obviously, we were all very distraught about it, my daughter among those, and so we went to dinner and really started brainstorming, what can be done to ensure this doesn't happen again, and it's really unfortunately, it's not a rare event. Campuses across America are really not a safe or secure place these days. And so what we did is we built an application on top of the Drisit platform that allows a student to summon a drone on demand. The drone will come find the student and then follow them as they walk or bike or across campus to wherever their destination is. And then at that point, the student can, again, with a single press of a button, say that, she doesn't need the Drisit Bodyguard anymore. And the drone will go automatically back to its base that it took off from for recharging. So that's essentially Drisit Bodyguard. And all that time, it streams the footage in real time to wherever person authorized the student in this case. That could be campus security, campus police. It could be a parent. It could be a roommate. But it's a way for...
Would there usually be a select number of drones that the campus owns that, people can call upon, or are they personal drones for each student?
The former, yeah. So the idea is that there's a number of drones that the campus has available for any student to summon.
Okay, I see. So like if, a young lady wants to walk home at night from the library to her dorm, she can summon a Drisit Bodyguard drone, which will surveil her and go with her. And then if anything happens, campus can take action immediately.
Exactly. And these drones can have lights. They can have loudspeakers to, issue a warning if there's something's going on. So they really act as a deterrent and as a monitoring device, both.
No, that's really interesting. So how far along are you with the idea? Is it in production or test use, or where's it at?
Yeah, it's in production. It's available now. So we've started to show it to universities and have found a lot of interest from both campus police departments as well as university leadership. We're in that early stage of bringing it to be used.
So is it gonna be featured on a test campus or two? And when is that going to happen, or is it already in use on campuses?
We are in discussions with campuses right now about that.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Well, what kind of feedback are you getting so far? No one has, it's not in use yet, but it sounds like I don't know. Is there a lot of interest? How do people react to the idea? I think it's a pretty good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, the feedback has been great. See if I can actually find some of the feedback to I'll actually read you some of the feedback we got from one of the campus police departments as they actually was testing it and were actually flying these drones remotely from their computer or phone. And yeah, they said it definitely got our attention. This has a lot of potential. Man, this is awesome. This is super cool, amazing. This is so cool. I don't know how to describe it. The simplicity of it is impressive. Super impressed with the technology. The interface and how simple it is to use. I was so impressed. Don't need to be sold. Mesmerized by the capability and application. Fantastic. I can see so many applications in our daily operations. You'll have workers lining up to join. So yeah, it's a new kind of experience. When the first time you take your first Drisit, when you are flying a drone that may be halfway across the country or the world, and you notice that it's so easy to do and it's so safe because we can set up geofences so that the drone physically cannot crash into anything because the geofence keeps it within a safe area. It's a really interesting experience.
So the person that the drone will be assigned to for that period of time, are they able to issue any commands to the drone, like voice commands, based on their perception of the danger? Let's say, again, they're being followed by the drone, it's gathering footage and all that. Would you have live campus police monitor the footage? Or, again, in addition, could the person issue voice commands to the drone, like call police or emergency or something like that, so that the surveillance escalates and maybe people are dispatched to help in an emergency situation?
Yeah, we're planning on having an alert button as well as, and yes, either campus police will be serving this in real time, or Drisit can survey it for the campuses as well. As well as somebody might want to just have their dad or their roommate keep an eye on them. So there's multiple ways to use it.
But again, being surveilled is one thing, but what if there's an attacker that comes and starts, grabbing the person and trying to drag him away or something? So you have footage, which is great, but how do you escalate it to an actual response? Yeah,
like I say, not only is this being monitored in real time, but in addition, there can be an alarm so that the student immediately says, I need help right now.
Okay, that makes sense. What would be the response if there's a fast developing emergency situation?
Well, it'd be sending personnel right away. I mean, for one thing, the drone will continue to follow the student and principal, and so that's and another drone can be dispatched to aid in that following, so that where. The most important thing is keeping an eye on the victim to know where they are. Dispatching people, when you know where they are, dispatching people then becomes obviously much easier.
Okay, but is there a target response time that you're trying to achieve, or is that up to the campus and their situation and all that?
That's up to the campus.
I don't know if there's any recommended, responses for different kinds of interactions and everything, but just the footage alone, I guess, would be tremendous. If it needs to be brought into court, et cetera, that would be very good.
Yeah, we think this can definitely save lives, because I would think that having, noticing that this is being watched in real time by police is a real deterrent.
Is there going to be any provision where facial recognition will be turned on during an encounter?
That's the kind of thing that can be added on top of the platform, right? So the footage is the first step. Once you have that, you can add machine vision on top, all kinds of algorithms. So that's I think coming down the line.
What other applications would this be good for? What about key personnel that are in, business or diplomatic or other kinds of situations, or, I guess military obviously would be a very different use, and I'm sure it's being used in all kinds of ways, but what other settings or situations would this be used in?
Well, LA County has started using Drisit for code enforcement. And, code enforcement officers sometimes are really in the line of danger because they might be looking at properties that could belong to the mafia, and they're, trying to stop illegal activity. And so being able to keep an eye on officers to make sure they stay safe, as well as being able to send a drone ahead to look at things without having to send personnel, can be a real game changer in terms of safety and security of these officers.
Well, the officer themselves would also be surveillance on them. So if they try any shenanigans, like accepting bribes or behavior that's not in line with their professional status and job, that would also be on the footage as well. So it goes both ways, I would think.
Yeah, eyes on anything ensures accountability. So we like to say that eyes in the sky save lives, but it does more than that. Like you say, it keeps people accountable too.
Is there any particular features of these drones? Like, would it be helpful for them to be noisy or to be incredibly quiet, to be there without the person really, like the presence of the drone? You want the person, I guess, to know that it's there, but it not to be so invasive or loud or overbearing that the person can't act normally. So is there any trade-offs or considerations there on the presence of the drone, how loud it is, how close it is?
Yeah, you can really have the best of both worlds there, because the drones themselves, as soon as they go above a certain altitude, very quiet. You really can't hear them once they go above a certain altitude. But if you use the ones that have loudspeakers, then you can make them not quiet whenever you want them not to. And so I think that you can have both of those both of the benefits, the quiet when you want it, but the conspicuity when needed.
Before we continue, I've been personally funding the Finding Genius podcast for 4.5 years now, which has led to 2,700 plus interviews of clinicians, researchers, scientists, CEOs, and other amazing people who are working to advance science and improve our lives and our world. Even though this podcast gets 100,000 plus downloads a month, we need your help to reach hundreds of thousands more worldwide. Please visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click on Support Us. We have 3 levels of membership from $10 to $49 a month, including perks such as the ability to see ahead in our interview calendar and ask questions of upcoming guests, transcripts of podcasts you're interested in, the ability to request specific topics or guests, and more. Visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click Support Us today. Now back to the show.
Well, what do you think would be good in a situation? Let's say again, campus at night, young woman's walking alone. Do you want the drone to be obvious to other people so that they don't even attempt anything, or do you want it to be in the background where no one really knows it's there except the person walking, so that it can What do you think would be better? What do you think would be more of a deterrent for people?
The former is definitely the deterrent. So a bodyguard is most effective when people know he or she is there.
I guess law enforcement could use these kind of things for like honeypot type applications, but that's different than what we're talking about.
Yeah, there are lots of applications of Drisit to law enforcement. I mean, police cannot see around corners, but drones can. And, that being able to give personnel a vision and a visual on a scene before they arrive can be a real game changer.
Okay. But would these drones be able to take any action themselves, or are they more of a passive surveillance device? Like, you said loudspeakers, lights, anything else would they be used? I would guess they don't have any offensive capability, but just like a warning capability, right?
Well, right. I mean, drones, of course, can have offensive capabilities, but Drisit tend to keep things on the defensive side.
Okay. Makes sense. I don't know, what else is there beyond the campus security market for Drisit Bodyguard? What are the applications people asking for that are common?
So one has to do with building monitoring, right? So we're seeing large owners of 1,500, 10,000 units be interested in using it both for monitoring the units for security as well as for marketing the properties. By being able to, whether you are selling a condo or renting one, being able to give the prospective buyer or renter a bird's eye view of the view from there, the view of the building, the view from the building, the surrounding area can be a real, can make you have a much higher conversion rate, essentially, as if, for somebody who can't actually go there in person, that the conversion rates are going to be much higher in person than not. And so Drisit can give you that lift in conversion rate for those who can't actually attend in person. So that's one application. Seeing a lot of interest in local government, both city and county, for building inspections, for code enforcement, for public works and construction monitoring. even for giving handicapped people access to events. And so that's another application together with law enforcement. And then we're seeing interest from telcos and utilities for infrastructure monitoring. A utility can have 100 teams of inspector and drone pilot going kind of door to door inspecting infrastructure to look for things that need attention. And being able to do those things from the office directly can be a game changer.
Yeah, I could see like a large apartment complex, let's say, instead of having a security guard sit in an office to walk the complex once an hour, you can amplify or augment what they're doing with drones. The drones could fly, every, 37 minutes, let's say, so that there's no particular pattern to them. And they could surveil the complex and report back and augment what, one security station, for instance, I guess, could have contracts with multiple apartment complexes or installations and have them all monitored properly.
Yeah, you can have a hub monitoring, so you can centralize that, make it much more efficient. You can have a same security personnel overseeing and monitoring multiple drone footage, so really expanding the area that they're monitoring. And those drones can be directed to, follow a thread and obviously be much safer for the personnel than exposing them in the field.
Do you know if in court cases, the drone footage has its own rules of evidence? Is it becoming commonplace? Like, again, with your campus product, if there's footage and there's someone's attack, how do you imagine that would be used and treated by the courts? Is there any insight into that?
Yeah, in general, drone footage may be admissible in court if it meets the same standards for admissibility as other types of evidence, such as photographs or video recordings. It'll depend.
I just want to make sure that I'm sure you thought about that. Very good. What other products come to mind or applications come to mind now that you come up with the Drisit Bodyguard? Is it still very new and there's a lot to deploy before you add on to the product or the project? Or, what are your thoughts about it? Where's it going over the next few years?
The other area we're seeing interest from is virtual field trips. We had some really interesting conversations with educators and educational technologists. Get really excited when they see, look at the potential of expanding kids' universe from the classroom to the world, right? Think about the difference between reading about something and actually seeing it. Reading about the pyramids or flying over them. Same thing with geographic formations, with places of historical interest, biological, different species. So I think that's a really interesting use case as well.
Okay. Well, very good. Alex, where can people that are interested find out more about Drisit Bodyguard and all the other Drisit applications?
Drisit.com, that's DRISIT, again, it's in drone visit. And then there's a menu by industries or verticals, and the security vertical has the details on, and there's a really nice 1-minute video on Drisit Bodyguard. One of the nice things about it is that you can get a nest for it too, that keeps the drone secure from the elements and ready to take off remotely at any time. And then the drone can land right back there, get the battery swapped by a robotic arm while a number of other batteries are being charged in the background, so that you have 24/7 availability.
Oh, so that makes it a pit stop? How long is the pit stop time?
Oh, it's just a couple of minutes. All the time is needed to change the battery, swap the battery.
Okay, so it could be back on the street in like 5-10 minutes, right?
Oh, even less than that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's excellent. Well, very good, Alex. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, and you're an endless source of really cool ideas. So it's nice to hear about them. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard. It's always a pleasure.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.